Hello, and welcome to the Let Them Live podcast. I'm Emily Burning, your host, and also the president and co founder of Let Them Live. We bring you interviews with unsung heroes and inspiring individuals who are in the fight to save babies, mothers, and fathers from abortion. Our goal is to amplify their voices and bring their stories to the forefront, shedding light on the incredible work they do and the lives they touch. This is more than just a podcast. It's a platform that allows everyone to share their pro-life stories and inspire us to passionately continue advocating for life. Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another episode of the Let Them Live podcast. Today we have an amazing guest, and she and I actually talked for the first time, probably a couple weeks ago, and she's just a really inspirational woman. So I'm really excited for you guys to meet Bree. Bree is a follower of Christ. She is a wife and a mom of 3, and she's an award-winning businesswoman. She's a cancer survivor and a domestic violence survivor as well. And she became a teen mom when she was 18. So she totally understands this mindset that so many women find themselves in when they find themselves pregnant, especially after a domestic violence situation. And now she's really passionate about helping young moms and women and showing them that it is totally possible to overcome abuse, right? That's not the end of your life. You can overcome that. You can make something of yourself. You can get back to the top. You can find Jesus. You can choose life. You can find success in business and in family and in marriage. And despite what society tells women, Bree is an amazing voice that tells women you can do this. You can be a boss lady. Welcome to the podcast, Bree. Thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yes. Oh my gosh. When we first talked and you had first reached out, I was like, I saw your profile and I was like, oh my gosh, like this lady, you are on it. You are this amazing woman. So I'd love for you to just share your story, your pro-life story, and talk about who you are and the domestic violence and how you came to this place of following Jesus and being a pro-life supporter.
Yeah, so I go way back. We found out that I had stage 3 lymphoma when I was 15, and the whole family was completely shocked because I not only never got sick, I was a competitive dancer, I was always on the go, I was a good student, all of those things. So that kind of stopped, obviously, the whole family in its tracks. I was inpatient for almost 6 months going through chemotherapy. While we were going through chemo, or while I was, my parents were asked right before we had started if we wanted to freeze my eggs, because the chemos that I was going to be taking, the chemotherapy, is known for causing issues with fertility. My parents ultimately ended up opting out of that because it is something very expensive, and they just left it to, what happens. And if maybe she will be meant to adopt later in life, maybe she will be able to have children. But we ultimately were told there's a 75% chance of her not being able to get pregnant and carry a baby to term. So fast forward a few years later, cancer-free, all of those things. I was 18 and in a very abusive, toxic relationship. That's also something that's always a very interesting conversation too, because it's almost like people seem to think that we just intentionally get into these abusive relationships and, like in my case, get pregnant and all of that stuff, when typically the abuse doesn't start to show its head or really get bad until you find yourselves in situations like you're pregnant or you get married. And it's actually statistically known that the abuse tends to get worse when those things happen. So I was 18. We had been dating for about 5 or 6 months, and I got pregnant while on birth control. I was on birth control. I'm not on birth control today. I don't like birth control for myself personally, but I had got pregnant on birth control, and just like anybody else who's 18, just starting their adult life, not having a ton of funds. I did not graduate high school because cancer put me back a year. I spent so much time in the hospital and I was playing a lot of catch up. So I just decided to get my GED, take the California State exam, and just go right into the workforce and right into school, after secondary school, after high school. And found out we were pregnant. I was terrified. I was in school to become an esthetician, and I didn't really have a great relationship, a great support system, and all of that stuff with the man that I was pregnant with. But thankfully, my parents, I had the blessing of having my parents very much so supportive. We don't come from a lot of money. I don't come from a lot of money. So they weren't really able to help a ton financially. But at the very least, I had a roof over my head. And abortion was never really, even back then when I was one of those people that said I was a Christian, but I really didn't have a relationship personally with Jesus. I was not studying my Bible. I was definitely not in my faith like I am today. And I think that we always continue to mature in our faith and become more sanctified in all of those things. But there was still something in me even back then that I knew this is human life. It wasn't mine to take, and that it was all going to work out. I knew it was going to work out. I knew we'd figure out a way. And what drives me crazy is society today has really done a really good job at painting this picture of having a child at any time, really, but especially when you're younger or in a bad situation, is going to like ruin your life, or it's going to hinder your chances of a successful marriage down the road, of a family down the road, of a career down the road, of whatever your goals are. And that's just simply not true. So I ended up having my child. I did stay with his dad on and off until my son was a couple months old. And then I finally left after he had tried to kill all three of us. I had finally decided I was done and left. And that was even crazier because here I am with a 2-month-old baby, just me trying to work, trying to pay the bills, all of that stuff. And if I look back at my life back then versus now, we've really grown up together, me and my firstborn, right? Like I remember I was a kid having a kid, but God showed up every single time. I can look back throughout my life and see, even when I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't really close with him. I wasn't really chasing after him. I wasn't in his word. I could just see his hand everywhere, which is so, so amazing. So that's a little bit of our story, but it's been a journey, and one that I would not change a single thing. I think all babies are blessings, and clearly God wanted Noah here for a reason. If I got pregnant with chemo stacked against me, I was on birth control and all of those things, and I still got pregnant. God wanted
An
him here for
actual miracle.
Yeah.
I feel like every pregnancy is a miracle. It's like the timing has to be right, the sperm, the egg, everything has to, and then it's like all that on top of it is just like mind blowing. And you've been through so much in your life that it's pretty amazing. No wonder you're such a convicted person. And you've built this amazing platform. You've got tons of followers. Instagram is just popping off. And I want to talk a little bit about like your inspiration for it, like just your hustle behind it. Like you told me before that you just started it from nothing. You just started posting things and you hustled hard, and your motivation behind building the social media, and then how you want to use it for not just the pro-life movement, God's kingdom.
Yeah, I did. I started it from nothing. People see, I think I have almost 90,000 followers today. People see that and just think, wow. And that it happens overnight, and it doesn't. I did. I started with a few hundred followers that were just people like I knew in life. And then I decided that I have a lot of knowledge and experience and things that I can share with other people, and just really wanting to reach people, especially they don't need to be exactly like me, but just in similar situations that I was in, whether it's a teen pregnancy or a mom that is struggling financially and finds herself pregnant, a new mom that finds herself pregnant. Maybe she's single, maybe she's married, who knows? Finding people that don't know Jesus and bringing them to Jesus. I'm really big on, my handle is Fight for Faith and Freedom. And those are my two biggest things, is really just showing faith and being a voice for freedom and sharing truth and with love. I think that it is so important. We live in a technology-based world, right? Like it is so different today than it was 15, 20 years ago. Getting information to other people is so easy with the world that we live in, with all of the social media platforms we have. So I really just wanted to capitalize on, we have this free platform, and I can sit here and, yes, there's censorship, but I can sit here and I can share truth about God's word, about what's happening in the world, what's happening in our government, what's happening with legislation, what's happening in general, and be able to get that across to people that maybe aren't necessarily awake to it yet, or that fully don't know God's love yet, or whatever it might be. That was really my whole inspiration behind it, was just getting all of that out there, getting as much truth out there that I could. And really now it's grown so big, and I am somebody that I have really big goals for everything that I'm passionate about in life. And I really hope that over the next several years, we can just quadruple the size of my platform and just bring more people to it, and they can see the way that God, I think that one of the best ways that we can really help people know God and see God is by being ourselves with Him, right? Like, people have this idea of this cookie cutter Christianity, or they have this idea of a really religious, like, dictatorship type God, and that's not Him at all. So I think there's a lot of power in us sharing our own individual testimonies with God, and how we found God, and how Jesus has moved in our lives personally, and what He's done for us. Because even if you don't have 90,000 followers, even if you have 20, that's 20 people that you can reach and really impact. And if you just impact one person, that's a huge deal. And I think a lot of people underestimate what their story and what they've been through and how they've overcome things, how that can really help people. One thing that I coach about a lot is, I really regret not taking photos and not documenting, which when I was pregnant with Noah, phones and iPhones and stuff weren't what they are today. When I had cancer, they definitely what they aren't today. But if I could have taken photos of those moments, taken videos of those moments, because it is really incredible to look back and see, oh my gosh, look at how hard that was. And especially for me, someone that's very visual, and seeing photos like really brings back memories. Seeing videos, hearing videos really brings me back to that place where it's just God shakes you and is like, look at where you were and look at everything I've done. Like, look at what I've done in your life. So if you are somebody that is going through something hard and struggling, don't be afraid to share your story. Don't be afraid to put that out there, because you never know who you're going to inspire. And on top of that, you have no idea the amount of people that are going through the same exact thing as you. And you're going to be able to make really incredible bonds and relationships with people that way too.
Yeah. I think it's amazing. I think that's such an inspirational thing to do, is like, just be open and be vulnerable, because I think it's important for us to just be raw and real and share what we've been through and mistakes that we've made and lessons we've learned. Like, not be embarrassed by it, but just own our lives in their entirety and learn to speak truth, share the lessons we've learned. Because if we could help one other person, what an amazing thing.
Yeah.
And that's what we do at Let Them Live. We're just helping so many moms. And of course, that. And I think that your platform is very encouraging, not just to me, because it's amazing that you're like, I want to partner with Let Them Live. How can I support you guys? How can I show my followers that you guys are there and you need support? But I think it's amazing too, because it just speaks to your own experience that you want to help women, and you put your money where your mouth is, which is amazing, which I think is amazing. I know you're a donor to Let Them Live, which I love. I am as well, obviously, firsthand the work that we're doing. And I wanted to just see, what is it about Let Them Live that stands out to you? There's so many amazing pro-life organizations, but specifically, what kind of prompted you to be like, oh, they're really cool?
Yeah, I just love the fact that you guys really focus on like helping that one like individual mom. And it seems like it's very much so case by case, more personalized basis. Like you said, there are so many amazing pro-life organizations out there, whether it's sidewalk ministries or it's helping with funding the clinics or all of that stuff. But one of the biggest, I think the statistic is like over 70% of women have abortions because of financial reasons. And the fact that you guys are finding these moms, or these moms are finding you, and you are able to step in and maybe help with that electricity bill, or help with the OBGYN bill, whatever it might be, the car payment, the rent. It's so important, because it does. Finances play a huge role. And I've been there. When I first found out I was pregnant, and then after I had Noah and I was a single mom, even though I was in school full time or working full time or both, we were struggling financially. So we were on the government, like Medi-Cal and like the medical insurance, and then like food stamps and whatnot, just to get by. And even that wasn't enough a lot of the time. So I can definitely see where so many women feel like they can't afford to have a child, or they feel like if they could just get their feet on the ground a little bit, get their head above water a little bit, then maybe they would have a chance at being able to have a successful life and family. And just reaching out and sharing that you're here to help them with those little things. And looking back, when you're in those moments, it feels like everything is closing in on you. It feels like the walls are closing in, and now you're going to be having this baby and it's all on you and all of that stuff. And you can feel like you are not going to be able to overcome it, and you don't know how you're going to get through it, and you can feel like you're drowning. And I can say for myself, when I look back at those moments of our lives, I can see, like I said, I can see God's hand all over it. There was never ever a time where my son didn't have food, or any of my kids didn't have food, or didn't have a roof over their head, or didn't have the clothes they need, whether it was through a nonprofit, or it was through our church family, or through friends, or through our family, or whatever it might have been. I think it's so important, because getting through those little hard moments and helping these moms just get their footing is so empowering. And if they feel like, okay, like the rent is paid for the month, I can breathe and I can keep going. If that is enough to save a life, that is huge. That's so transformative. And I think that by doing more of that and being able to reach more moms on a one-on-one level, where we can truly help them realize you're not alone and there is a village behind you. I think that just so many moms are not aware that there's a village behind them, or they're afraid to reach out to people. They're afraid to ask for help because they're worried about being judged. And like I said before, we live in this society where they are really trying to push that a baby is going to ruin your chances of marriage. They're going to ruin your chances of a family down the road. It's going to ruin your chances of a career and all of these things. Or maybe you wanted to go to college and get an amazing degree, or whatever it might be. They have really put this idea out there that none of that is possible. And there's so many of us that are living proof that it is. I know one of the thoughts.
Yes, you're a perfect example. You're living the life.
Yeah.
You were a single mom. You got married. You're doing all these things. You have an amazing business, which I do want to talk to you about, but it's like you are breaking this weird stereotype that our society has created around mothers. Like, what a weird thing to say, oh, you're a woman, you can't do it. You can't have a baby and do this. Like, actually, women totally can. And you're an example of it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah. And I just love that you guys like are working with the moms so hands-on and helping them financially with those things, because that is the biggest hurdle that women run into, aside from in the abusive relationships and things like that. But even that, finances come into play when you're worried about the abuser and things like that. Being able to leave that situation costs money. All of these things cost money. So I think that you guys directly helping moms with the funds that they need to just get on their feet and get going is so impactful. And if we can just keep growing, let them live as a larger and larger organization, and just helping more and more women and saving more babies, I just think that's amazing. And God's just going to continue to bless it.
That's the goal. Like I told people, and I'll say it all the time, this is never my plan. This was never the plan for my life, but hardly ever do we end up doing what we plan. It's not what we plan. And God grew, let them live, just like, what a beautiful thing. And it's such a cool mission. Obviously I'm biased, but really getting to help moms and getting to know them and their people. If I were in that position, or if I had a friend or a daughter that was in that position, like, I would want them to be helped. And something that you had talked about, like food stamps, not typing in it, not being enough. It made me think about it's called, the acronym is ALICE, the Asset Limited Income Constrained Employed group of people that are making too much money to qualify for everything they need, but they're not making enough to get by. And so we find a lot of women in that like gap. We don't want to forget about them, right? The ones that they really are trying to make a better life for themselves. but they just can't quite get there. And we give them a little hand up. And thank you for helping us do that, because I will say this on every single episode of this podcast: we are 100% donor funded. We cannot reach women. We can't grow. We can't save lives. We can't minister to them without donations. And it's so crucial for us in order to keep growing. And I wanted to talk to you a little bit about your business, because I obviously love it. I think it's amazing. Let's talk a little bit about Melaleuca and just how you got started in that, because I think a lot of women are going to watch this, and I want them to see just how much of a success you've become and how you got there. So tell me a little bit how you got into it, and you can even do a little blurb about it. I totally will. I talk about it all the time. So I'm going to let you take it away, but share with us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so it's actually interesting, perfect segue for what you had just said, that gap of the income where you have the food stamps and all of that stuff. My husband and I both worked full time. So another stigma that we always see is like people saying that you're not ever going. I hear it all the time. I've had women come to me as single moms saying something along the lines of nobody's going to want to marry or be with a single mom. Like it's a burden, and it's just not true. I met my husband when my son was a year old, a year and a half. And he said, like, the moment I saw you, I knew I was going to marry you. And we both worked full time. And then we went on to have our own daughter a couple years later together. And we were in that situation where we were not making enough money for the finances, for the financial aid, or we were making too much for the financial aid, but we were not making enough to get by. We basically just did what we do and just worked more and worked harder, worked longer hours. And then a few years later, surprise, our youngest came along. He was totally a miracle baby, a surprise baby. But we, at that point, were just so overworked and exhausted. He and I never saw each other because we were either working at the same time, or on like weekends we would switch shifts so that like he was home with the kids when I was at work or vice versa. And it just got to the point where I went back to work when I was 2 weeks postpartum with our youngest son. So they needed me in the studio. I was managing a makeup studio. They needed me in the studio and we needed the money. So I went, and I just remember pumping in the break room for our youngest and just like crying. Like I just wanted to be home holding my baby and feeding him. I remember driving home like at like 8, 9 o'clock at night after I closed the studio. And there was like one like core memory that will never, ever leave my brain. I could just hear my newborn, like it literally was 2 weeks old when I went back. So I think at the time he was probably about 6 weeks old, 7 weeks old. I was driving home and he just wanted mom. My kids were very much so like just mom when they were very young infants, even into 6 months old and stuff. They were very attached to me, probably because of nursing and all of that stuff. But I remember driving home and one of those accidents happened where the cops have to go through and block the traffic. And I got stuck. Of course, I was like the second row back, just stuck there staring. And there's my off ramp right there, that if I could just get on that off ramp, I'll be home in 5 minutes. And my husband is like calling me frantic. I can hear Jackson, our youngest, at a few weeks old, just screaming bloody murder in the background. He just wanted me. And I was just like, I can't do this anymore. I want my baby. I want my kids. I want to be home. And I was very overworked and very underpaid. And I had kept expressing that to my husband. And he was basically just, you need to ask for a raise or quit, and we'll just figure it out. And I was like, what does figure it out mean? I know I don't make a ton of money, but we need the money that I do make. And he was like, you're miserable and this isn't working. So we'll figure it out. So I did. I went and asked for a raise. She shot me down instantly. And it was then that I realized, and I did. I like drove home that night crying, not knowing what we were going to do. And I had no idea what Melaleuca was, what the wellness store was, any of that was. I was a makeup artist and esthetician for 10 years. And it was a total God thing because I wasn't looking for it. I was on Facebook one day and I had seen one of my girlfriends post about a non-toxic cleaner. And we had already got rid of the bleach and all of the toxic cleaners and stuff in our home. But she had posted about it and how amazing it worked. And I was like, I need that. My toddler and my kids are messy and crazy and we were homeschooling and all of that stuff. And I was like, I need that cleaner if it works that well. So I bought it to become a customer. And then she had told me about the business side. And I was like, wait, what? Like I can do this from home. And she was a mom of two at the time and pregnant with one. So she was a mom of three. Today she has 6 kids and she's adopting 2 more. And I was like, okay, if she can do this with no experience, so can I. So that Christmas, I actually had to reach out. Like I said, my parents don't have a ton of money. I had to reach out to my mom because it was literally going to be, again, we were not on a ton of assistance at that time because we made too much. So I had to reach out to my mom and say, either we have to pay this bill and have no Christmas gifts for the kids under the tree, or we pay for Christmas gifts and we don't pay this bill. And it was already past due. I was like, do you have a credit card or anything that I can just, buy a few gifts on? And thank God she had $150 on a credit card so we could do that. But I had just become a customer and had just heard about the referral side, the income side. And I was like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I cannot have my kids not have Christmas gifts, or we didn't have savings accounts. We had debt. Our credit was so bad, nobody would even rent to us. Like, it was so, so, so bad, even though we were working so hard, that I was like, listen. And like I said before, my husband and I are both really hard workers. So I was like, if I know that if I do this and I just put my mind to it, like, we will completely change our family's life. And we did just that. We started talking to everybody that we knew and sharing on social media about these products and how amazing they are and how amazing this opportunity is and how much it's changed our lives. And that's where I really do think that people are just told that having a child is going to destroy that and get in the way of that. And my children are the biggest reason why I work so hard. They are the reason why I do everything that I do. We're able to give them a good Christian education. We're able to give them a good home. We're able to pay for sports for them. We're able to anything that they need. It's not even a second thought. And to go from being a single mom that just left an abusive relationship to we've made over $1.3 million with Melaleuca has just completely changed our lives. And it's not even that, it's the lives of the women that we've helped as well. We have so many women are making a couple $1,000s a month, or that are making 6 figures a year. And it's life-changing money, especially today. I looked at my husband several times with the state of the country today and been like, could you imagine if the bills and everything were this way 5 years ago? Like, we would not have a house. Like, we were in an apartment back then, a little 2-bedroom apartment as a family of 5, but we wouldn't have been able to pay the bills. Like, there would have been no getting by. So it's been a huge blessing, and it's definitely was a godsend, because I wouldn't have been able to tell you what Melaleuca was 6 years ago. Like, I had no clue at all. Just watching how it's transformed our lives and our marriage, and being able to see, my husband not having to work so much and never getting to see him, and being able to be a hands-on family, having him, he coaches our kids' teams. He is present for everything, and he still works, but it's not out of necessity and I have to. It's not me like begging him to come home because I'm like drowning with all the kids and all the things, and I can't, I need to make money. So it's been amazing to watch it transform our lives and watch it transform more people's lives. What's really incredible is watching. It's one thing, and it's amazing to have your own success. It's a whole different level when you get to help other people do that. And it's why I'm so, so passionate about moms that are struggling, or moms that are in the situation that I was, where they're pregnant and they don't know what they're going to do. Moms that are being told they're never going to be able to get married and have a family because they got pregnant out of wedlock when they were younger. And none of it's true. I'm living proof, and being able to reach them and really help them and have that impact on their life is just, it's completely different when you're able to watch God work in other people's lives like that.
Yeah, I think it's beautiful because it just shows the journey. You've dealt with much, and it's your way up, and it happened, and it's possible. You have to hustle, you have to work hard, of course, but it is amazing. And I wasn't originally going to do this, but plugging Melaleuca, gosh, a Christian or like a conservative company that has family values and I got into it. A friend of mine had said, hey, you should try out Melaleuca. And so I did, and I'm hooked. I have everything. I have Melaleuca makeup. I have skincare. The skincare, I was literally breaking out so bad the other day, and it cleared me right on up. So I do everything like Melaleuca, like cleaning products, whatever. If you haven't heard of it or you want to sign up, really great. You just order your products monthly. I have a little list on my phone. I need to order more makeup wipes and more cleaner. So I just more deodorant, that type of thing. And it's actually pretty affordable. It's pretty amazing. I think Luca.com, is that right? That people can learn more. And if maybe women wants to learn how to get into the business side of things, like how would they do that, Bree?
So if you go directly to the website, it's going to redirect you to, they'll email somebody to send you a referral because it is all referral based. If you are wanting to directly work with me, or maybe there's another person that you follow on Instagram or a friend that you have that is in Melaleuca and you want to work with them, then you would reach out directly to them and they can get you the website, the shopping link, the browsing link, information, all of that stuff and help you out. But yeah, the products are amazing and it's all stuff that we buy already. And I love the fact that, like you said, it is a conservative company and their values align with ours. And in a day where we've seen, I stopped going to Starbucks so long ago. I'm like, I know that they are directly funding Planned Parenthood and like abortions and things that I can't let my money go there. Being able to know that I'm not only partnered with them and shopping with them, but I'm helping other people switch over to defunding companies that are for that, and knowing that our founder stands where I stand with our values and everything is something that is truly amazing too.
That's amazing. I think it's such a good thing too. You want to put your money where your mouth is. You want to support companies. You want to have good products. You want to have companies that are not just going off and giving their money, like you said, to Planned Parenthood. And so, yeah, so if anyone's interested in watching, Bree obviously can get your referral link. I'm not signed up for that. I feel like I would just absolutely fail. My plate is full of Let Them Live, but Bree can hook you guys up. And seriously, it's amazing. They're just amazing products. I really wouldn't ever like promote something that I didn't actually really like. So I really like their stuff. And I'm so grateful for you being on, Bree. Thank you so much for sharing. I really think that you just have an inspirational story, and I want every single woman who's going through like an unexpected situation, unexpected pregnancy or an abusive situation to just listen to this podcast because it shows that they're going to be okay. And I think at the end of the day, that's something that we all need to hear is it's going to be okay. It's all going to be okay. And you are living proof of it. And so thank you for taking the time out of your, I'm very sure, busy schedule and sharing and being very open. And what is your social media handle, just so that everyone can give you a follow as well?
It is Fight for Faith and Freedom, and the 4 is the number 4.
Perfect. Give Bree a follow, you guys, and thank you so much for listening. Thank you again, Bree, for being on.
You're welcome. Thank you so much for having me. And if anybody has any questions or just needs to chat, you guys can absolutely find me on my Instagram. My inbox is always open.
Yay. I love that. Awesome. Thank you guys for listening and tuning in and watching, and we'll see you for the next episode. Thank you so much for joining us on today's episode of the Let Them Live podcast. I would like to give a special shout out to Patrick at Moon Shadow Studios, who does an amazing job of editing our podcast. If you're ever in the need for a podcast editor, he is definitely the one to go to. Let Them Live is a Christian nonprofit dedicated to supporting women who are considering abortion primarily due to financial burden. 73% of women have abortions because of financial struggles, and we're here to help bridge that gap. Our goal is to provide the emotional and financial support these women need to feel empowered to choose life. If our cause resonates with you and you're interested in learning more, getting involved, or making a donation, please visit our website at www.letthemlive.org. One amazing way to contribute is by joining our Heartbeat Club, where you can become a monthly donor, and your ongoing support will ensure that we can continue helping women every single month. You can also follow us on social media to stay up to date with all the amazing stories and ways that you can be part of our mission. You can also find me on Instagram at Emily Burning. Thank you again for listening, and please join us for more upcoming inspiring stories and conversations.